Hello everyone and welcome to the Wolfside channel. Today with a very special topic, always special, the Oghmirs and Thursars, because there were reports out there. Some reached out to me and said that the Thursars are more capable at the front lines because of their magic resistance they have. And because there's so much magic in the game, it's actually also a key factor in PvP, of course. So magic resistance came more important over time. That the Thursars are the frontline fighters makes sense by the lore Star Wars created. This makes sense by the lore, but PvP balance is always a different thing. There's also a voting down there in the description. If you think that the Oghmirs should be buffed, or that is everything good as it is, or that you don't know and that you don't care and leave it all as it is. But to understand where this comes from, we also need to understand how the system works with the Psyche. So just for example, we are having a small Thursar build who aims to have magic resistance. I only skilled in the mastery skill tree for this example, just the points to get the attribute points. I haven't skilled anything else, just to show you a few key differences. So we are having 25% damage bonus, 203 health and 401 maximum running speed. And we have about 80 Psyche, which is a good magic defense in general. Now to the Oghmir build, we have also about 25% damage bonus, 220 health. Of course, you have to remind, if you would skill the whole mastery tree with the Oghmir and with the Thursar, both would have more health, but the base health line, the key difference here are the 20 health in this example. And the max speed slightly slower than the Thursar. And he has 20 Psy because he's a frontliner, he needs his strength, dexterity and constitution, of course, like the Thursar. These are just the main stat differences in the frontline fighting here. So for the Thursar, you can gain additional magic resistance with the Adamant Clade gift. Of course, with the trade-off that you're getting more physical damage, which is also very hardcore depending on the type of fight you are in. But currently on the battlefields, they are getting the elementalists throwing spells everywhere. But for the physical resistance, the Oghmir has also some cool buffs like the stone skin and the rock solid, which gives him additional physical resistance. But now to understand the key differences between the two races a little bit more, or the key difference between the 20 Psy compared to 60 Psy, and also the difference between the Adamant and not the Adamant Glade gift. So Psy plays a very essential role in this. So first, the more intelligence you have, the more damage you do. So for example, for Outburst we had 31 to 37. Now with 3 more points in int, we have 31 to 38. So more intelligence means more damage, of course. Psyche means more resistance, of course. So here, just for example, we're having an Oghmir who is casting the Outburst on a Thursar, and the Thursar having Adamant active. And it's about as the solid 30s. The biggest hit was the 31. Now without the Adamant active, you will get 10% more damage than the actual damage that he can make with his Outburst. And it actually makes a huge difference compared having Adamant on or off. This could be a buff or a debuff as well, because if you are on the battlefield and you're using that, then you can buff yourself that you get less magic damage, but then you will get also more physical damage. So it's also a debuff as a Thursar. Now to the much more interesting thing, Psyche plays a big role in this. So when you're having, for example, a mastery tree that is not skilled and you're having 20 Psyche and you are an Oghmir, so you don't have Adamant and stuff, you will eat a raw about 30 damage, 33 damage. Again, the Thursar with the Adamant is taking 10% less damage, so it's about the 27, 26. And the Thursar that has not activated Adamant is getting up to 38 damage. So this is the difference in taking the magic damage. So if you have a very interesting Thursar build, like for example this one, you have a mastery tree skilled, at least the magic defense, of course. Then you also have 60 Psy because of the extra points you have left over that you can skill up to 60 Psy. When you're making a small Thursar, of course, your damage bonus is then not so high compared to a tall Thursar. And the taller you are, the more hitbox you have. Then, without the Adamant, you're getting hit for, you see it, they are also resisted a few times. 29, 25, 29, 29. And of course, it's also the difference between the intelligence of the caster and the Psy of the victim. And of course, the higher the Psy, the better resistance you have. Now, the interesting thing is, with Adamant on, you can resist mages very hard, because you have to think of the 10% damage increase in magic damage and the 10% decrease when you activate it, so it's actually not 10% difference, it's 20% difference. So it's about the 22, 21 to 24, it also depends. But the most interesting thing is when the mage hits himself, because he has 100 Psyche, he has 120 intelligence and 100 Psyche, and he is an Oghmir, so the damage should be the 31 to 37 or something like that, but because of his Psyche and his not skilled mastery points in magic defense, it's a little bit strange why we are here at 23. Because in the old Mortal Online, there was the Psyche only increased the resist chance to resist a spell. But now it seems that Psyche is also reducing the magic damage itself. Or maybe it's a combination from the rock solid gift and the defensive stance. But it doesn't make sense that the defensive stance is counted in there. But I'm not sure. I already contacted Nebulous. If I have an answer to that, I will comment it below. I will also write it in the description. And no, I will not data mine that, because first, that is illegal, and second, we are not doing this on this channel here. And the next thing is, would be awesome if Star Vault could publish, I don't know, a chart or the calculation how the damage is calculated and how the damage that is received is calculated. Then we can finally stop with the guessing games and with the random numbers, because a few people think that it's broken and a few people think that it works like intended, and a few people don't know what they should think. So my key point and my conclusion in this is, when you're playing a Thursar Clade, you're coming up to about 15 to 20 Psyche. But you're very high on size, even more high than I am in Henrik's streams when I'm loaded in as a guest. So 225 centimeters, 35% damage bonus, and you're smacking everything in your way. But of course, magic is your rock, paper, scissors principle. And against magic, you are often the victim. So you don't have a lot of magic resistance. Now with a Thursar build, that is a small Thursar that is having a lot more attribute points, you can also make a build that is pretty okay against magic resistance, and you have still okay stats for a frontliner. And if you're comparing this with, for example, a frontline Oghmir, then there is a little bit of a difference. Of course, the difference is there for a reason, because in the lore, the Thursars are the frontline fighters. But when you remember a few years back, there was a time where the Oghmirs were the tanky frontline fighters, while the Thursars were the damage frontline fighters. There were also a time where Thursars were pretty useless. The thing is, with the tower shields and stuff, this will also change in the future, by the way, in the very near future. There was also a time where Oghmirs were tanky OP. Then Star Vault nerfed the rock solid Clade gift of the Oghmirs, and now it seems that the Thursar, the Psyche Thursar builds are very, very good. And again, I know that you can't compare these two only by the magic resistance. I know that, no problem. But it's currently the main key factor in here. And the most interesting thing is, I don't have an opinion on this, because it's a balance thing. It's very, very dependent on the circumstances, very dependent on what type of fight you have, and it's very dependent on your build and on your skill and on your trinkets and on everything you have. But if you're comparing the baselines, there are key differences. And I don't have a personal opinion on nerf this or buff this or do this. No, I'm not doing that. You can decide. So please participate in the voting, would be really awesome, by the way. And please also write in the comments your experiences as a Oghmir or as a Thursar, if you think it's fair, it's not fair, if you think the magic resistance should change there. I mean, we also have to wait up to the Reckoning patch for the adrenaline system and for the battle moves and stuff, because this will also maybe change some metas. But we will see, So if you may be having a topic like this that we should bring more light to, then please comment below, would be awesome. And I really hope you enjoyed this interesting video, so please leave a like and subscribe, would be really awesome, by the way. And special thanks to all the supporters, of course. Carmel, Lucario, Ronus, Patronax, Cologne Bulldog, and all the others, of course. And never forget to play your Oghmir and Thursar hard. Oh yeah. I mean party hard. See you all next time. Goodbye.